Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Hearken well in Hall of Kings. On ocean steed my words gain wings. Odin's mead I forth will bring. For noble deeds thine honor sing.
From finding Excalibur to obtaining Mjolnir, from friendship to treachery, and from hype to disappointment, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the 12th installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and was probably one of the most hyped recent releases in the franchise. Before this video fully starts, I would like to say there will be spoilers for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as this is a review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so there will be spoilers, yes. The hype leading up to AC Valhalla was unmatched. Ubisoft had promised the return of social stealth and a more cinematic take on combat, much like the older games in the franchise. Now, whilst Ubisoft did promise the return of social stealth, you should know, if you've played many Ubisoft games, especially as of recently, take everything they say with a grain of salt leading up to a release by them. The social stealth in AC Valhalla is unbelievably janky, inconsistent, and useless. I tried to use the social stealth, I really did, but it's just terrible. You can only blend in with certain groups of people, and you have to manually walk the same speed as the groups, which is impossible on mouse and keyboard. It just is. Unless you're going to sit there tapping the W key repeatedly, which, don't know if you know this, not very fun gameplay. The only other form of social stealth is blending in activities, which you could do in the older games, like walk up to a bench and sit on it, blend in with groups of people that were just talking, not moving, lean against a wall to blend in. There were several things like that. In this game, you can make bread, or you can also sit on a bench, but you have to go up to it, manually interact with it, and by the time you did that, if you're not playing on super easy stealth difficulty, the enemies already know you're there. They 100% already know. Not to mention, these activities are completely useless when you can literally climb any building. There doesn't have to be any, visible climbing points, like a brick that's sticking out a little bit extra, or a wooden peg in the older games. Nothing like that. You can just literally climb whatever, whenever. Especially doesn't make no sense, because the character we're playing as is a Viking. Right? They aren't known to be, master climbers, you know? But by being able to climb onto any building, you can just avoid full groups of enemies easily, without having to do literally anything, so stealth really isn't even a part of this game, but we'll get to that later. So social stealth, which is a feature that Ubisoft hyped up, is a complete failure in Valhalla. But there is still that combat. So what about that? What about the combat in Valhalla? Well, the combat can be very creative with several different skills they have added in. The finishers that Ubisoft added are very repetitive. There's only one per special enemy group, which I remember specifically throughout this most recent playthrough. The guys that carry around the banners, or also the guys that carry around maces, or flails, I guess. Specifically the flail one. The amount of times I witnessed Eivor wrap the flail around that guy's neck and then choke him out with it throughout my playthrough was unbearable. I'm talking at least 50 to 100 times throughout my playthrough. I saw very fun, especially when the finisher usually doesn't even look like choking the guy out. It usually just looks like you're choking out the air around him. It's not very good. But the actual combat itself isn't too bad. It's actually not too bad. There's several different types of weapons in Valhalla. We have spears, short swords, long swords, great shields, normal shields, hammers, large hammers, axes, great axes, flails, maces, scythes. We have a whole bunch of different weapons. Not to mention, we also have a decent amount of long-ranged, different types of options. They're all bows, but there's different types. Like, there's the hunter bow, which I'm pretty sure is the one where you go in first-person aim, which is probably the easiest for, long-distance stealth, trying to hit a headshot. We have the predator bow, which is just, a normal bow, basically. And then there's also the light bow, which you don't have to actually hold the trigger down as you pull the drawstring back. It's automatically back, and Ivor just kind of lets a bunch of arrows fly. So that one's the best for putting out the most amount of damage in the shortest amount of time. So weapon variety, or quote-unquote build variety, isn't that big of a problem in this game. There's a lot of different options. The main problem with the combat in this game, though, is the fact that anything other than the combat in this game usually isn't fun. Trying to stealth your way through situations, which I tried to do because it's an Assassin's Creed game, it didn't really work out. I know you technically don't play as an assassin in this game. Ivor isn't an assassin, but they are, given the hidden blade and everything, but you can barely take out 2 enemies next to each other, which was never a problem in the older games. You could always take out, if there was 2 enemies next to each other, you might have had to have unlocked like a skill for it, but you could always take out 2 people, no problem. Ivor can't do that. If there's 2 people right next to each other, you take out one, by the time you go take out the second one, he already has a whole axe in your ass. You are dead. So in summary, combat has a bunch of different options that you can switch through anytime throughout your playthrough, because there is no, like, you don't have to have a certain amount of strength to wield a weapon. It's not like the closest game I could compare it to, as it's not like, is like Elden Ring, where you have to level up like strength if you want to wield a giant fucking the Berserk Greatsword, okay, which yeah, I do use, okay. I am a proud Berserk Greatsword spammer. Okay, I don't play PvP though, so I'm not that guy, don't worry. But you don't have to do any of that throughout Valhalla. As a matter of fact, your skill points almost don't matter. They don't matter unless it's up in your health or unlocking a new ability. They do not matter. So you don't have to worry about that. You can wield a great shield and a dagger if you want. You can, you do have to get an ability if you want to dual wield like 2 spears, or just 2 two-handed weapons, but that's literally about the only restriction I can think of, and you unlock that almost out of the gate. You can unlock that skill, so it's really not that big of a deal. Which for a Ubisoft game, being able to switch between whatever weapons you want at any time throughout your playthrough is a good thing, especially when this game, it drags on. So you need some sort of variety, because the missions don't give you that. So you need some sort of other variety, and the combat has variety, which is a good thing. Personally, for my playthrough, I started out the game using a short sword for most of my playthrough, probably the first 40 hours. And then after that, I went ahead and unlocked myself Excalibur. I used that for a while. And then after, I basically completed a majority of the main game content, and I ended up unlocking Mjolnir, which is like Thor's hammer if you don't know. I dual wielded that with Excalibur, which is just a brutal combo. If you've used it, you know, it's just a brutal combo. So throughout my playthrough, I obviously tested out like other types of weapons. I used a scythe for a bit, I think, or something like that. I tested out quite a few other weapons, but those are like the main weapons I used, and I will admit, I didn't get bored very quick of the different weapons and the variety you could have for yourself in combat. Now, outside of weaponry, another big part of combat in Valhalla is the skill tree, which is way too big, especially after the DLCs. I'm talking level 500 plus to get every skill, which unlike Origins, you can get every skill. In Origins, you actually had to choose, like pick and choose what your skill points went to, because if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't played through it recently, but if I'm remembering correctly, in Origins, you could not unlock every single ability in one playthrough. That was not possible. In Valhalla, you can unlock all 500 levels worth of skills and abilities in the skill tree before you're even like in the last 2 missions. You can do that. Now, I didn't, because the side content in this game is, well, we'll talk about it later, but it's something. But you could, hypothetically, especially with the DLCs, you could. Now, most people would think with such a big skill tree, you must be able to, like, tailor make a unique build that's different from other people's. No, that basically doesn't happen. There is no build variety in this game, which is a big problem for me, because even as someone who loves and praises and will kiss the ass of From Software and their games, probably till the day I die, there is one game in specific out of the like Dark Souls, Soulsborne type games that I don't like as much, and that game is Sekiro. Sekiro is a great game, but there's not much build variety, because you have to use a katana, it's much like Ghost of Tsushima. You have to use a katana. There is no other weapons, which I don't even mind that much in Sekiro, because the core fundamentals of the game are there. Now, the problem with something like this and not having build variety really too much, because a lot of the weapons do feel pretty similar, like a short sword and a long sword. The only difference is the long sword's going to be slower. So the only thing you really have to try and like diversify your build in Valhalla is the skill tree. But the skill tree, there is no diversifying, which is definitely why, in my opinion, I know there's going to be some people that can play through Valhalla a million times probably. I don't know where you'd find those people, but you could probably find them. Me personally, this is only my like second playthrough. I did one playthrough when the game came out, and it was bugged to all hell, and then another playthrough for this video. It's not good. It's not good for replayability. Once you play through it once, after all the updates that they've done to the game, which makes it more stable and more playable, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's really just, there's not much for you to replay, in my opinion. There's nothing that makes me want to go back, like a Dark Souls game, because those games, it's the same story every time, but every build I've done, Dark Souls 1, for instance, I have hundreds of hours in that game, probably close to 1,000. And there's still builds that I haven't used that are going to be completely unique. For instance, I remember there's a katana that every time you hit someone, it's like a Quelaag's blade or something like that. You can use her soul to turn the katana that you get into her blade. Every time you hit an enemy, it damages you, but it does a massive amount of damage. Now, if I use that, that's going to be completely different from other playthroughs because I have to manage my health more. It's not just when the enemies hit me that I'm losing health. It's also when I hit the enemies, you know? And there's just nothing like that. Even a game like that's more linear that I can think of, which this is a open world RPG, by the way, Valhalla, and somehow it has less replayability for me than a closed linear experience like The Last of Us Part 1, the original Last of Us Part 1, and the remaster, not the remake. Well, they called it remake, you know what I mean. You can play through that on normal difficulty and then go play through it on grounded. Two different games, right? Normal difficulty, you always have ammo, so you can take out almost every zombie. You do that on grounded, you're running out of ammo before you're even halfway through the game and you're dying. So that makes you want to replay it, right? And then even with something like the remake that they put out of The Last of Us Part 1, they have a permadeath per chapter or for full game. I've played through it with permadeath for the full game before, and I did that playthrough right after finishing a normal playthrough of the game when it came out, and I still felt refreshed because there was a whole new way you have to play the game. So if a open world RPG with a very large and beautiful, I'll get to that later, but beautiful world like Valhalla can't come close to something that is a linear, closed world, go here, do that, go here, do this game, if it can't even reach that amount of replayability, then I really think it shouldn't have been a full open world game. Maybe like an open level game. Open world, it does not work. For how beautiful Valhalla's world is, which like I said, I'll get to that in a little bit, I dread having to get on my longship and go through rivers or around England to go somewhere. I dread having to hop on my horse and ride it all the way to the destination. If there was a fast travel point, I'm fast traveling there because there's just nothing to fill the in-between space. The side content, the quests, if you can call it that, like a side quest, they are one and done, 2-minute little things. The longest ones are getting Excalibur, which you can't even do till around like halfway through the game, and getting Mjolnir, which you absolutely can't do until the end of the game because you have to take out everyone on this order list that has all the order members. And the last one, you don't get to do that until like the second to last alliance or something like that, which are basically the way that the story's told throughout Valhalla. So the extremely interesting quests are locked behind hours of boring shit trekking through England, which I get it, okay? It was England during when the Vikings, the Danes, everybody was going over there. Similar to kind of like when Vinland Saga takes place, okay? Similar to that time period. I get that, okay? So there's not a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of empty, just rolling hills throughout England. I mean, I have friends that live in England. I mean, if you look at it now, even, there's still quite a few areas like that. And while they are beautiful, and would love to see them in real life with my own eyes, right? In a video game, open dead space is not something, it's not something that's going to keep you intrigued. It's like if you were reading a book, you're reading a book, and from page 120 to page 160, there's no words, no pictures. Every once in a while, actually, you'll get a picture that's worth looking at, but you have to forcefully flip through all those pages, and each page takes you like 5 to 10 minutes. Would you read that book? You can't skip those pages. Would you read that book? Probably not. You don't see anyone going out there and buying that book, 50 Shades of Grey, which is actually just a book full of 50 Shades of Grey. You don't see anyone buying that and then reading it. They might buy it and then, have it somewhere. That way they can be like, hey, look, I have 50 Shades of Grey. But they're not reading it because it's a book that is literally just 50 Shades of Grey. It's 50 blank pages. So you wouldn't read that. So why would you play a game that, because riding a horse isn't interactive, some motherfucker at Ubisoft they had a brain blast and they put a fucking stamina bar on the horse that they knew you would have to trek across fields just to get anywhere. And on top of that, they don't want you to trek across fields where all those side quests are, As boring as they might be, they don't want you to go find those on horseback, because the only way you can make it so your horse stays at max stamina whilst running full speed is by staying on the roads. And those just take you through empty, roaming fields throughout England, which is not fun. The 90th time you're doing it. The first time I did it, I was like, ooh, that's a beautiful looking game. 50th time I'm doing it, ooh, when's this game ending? Which is not something you want someone who's playing a game to feel. Because a lot of people, they will go, hey, when's this game ending? If it's this boring right now, I'm gonna tap out. I'm gonna delete the game. I'm gonna stop playing it. See, I know that some games can be a bit of a slow burner. That's why I sit through it. But sitting through all of this, like, quote unquote slow burner A24 type areas in the game, it just brought me the climax of the story. It didn't feel rewarding enough. It didn't feel rewarding enough. Yeah, it just didn't. It felt even worse when I got to the end. It was like, that was terrible. Why did I waste my time? Which is not a feeling, if I was ever making something, that I would want someone to feel whilst they are experiencing what I made. Now, obviously, the reason why Ubisoft does this with a lot of their newer titles is because, hey, you consumer right there, you consumer, if we milk you of 150 hours, I think, was my final time count on my save. If we milk you of 150 hours, you're most likely to buy one of our gear sets, which, by the way, there's more purchasable gear sets in the game than base game unlockable gear sets, not including the DLC, base game unlockable gear sets in Valhalla. But you're more likely to buy some if you're like, well, I already spent 150 hours in the game. What's, spending $20 here, $20 there on the game, It's the same thing a lot of companies do. But I feel like when it happens in a multiplayer game, it's not as bad because they need to have player longevity for a multiplayer game to survive, right? But a single player game, I feel like it hurts me more. That's why I was happy with the Dead Space remake. There was basically no microtransactions that when I played through when it came out that I looked at and went, I need that. And as a matter of fact, all of the best stuff you could unlock, you unlocked through playing the game, which is how it should be. That's how it should be. When you go on to Elden Ring, they don't go, hey, here's the new DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, and here's our new bundle that's dropping that gives you a armor set that makes you invincible and gives you a sword, a great sword that one taps every enemy, including Prime Consort Radon. Yeah, one shots every boss, every enemy. There's not that, and that's why that game is held in such high regard. It might not be as quote-unquote graphically impressive as Valhalla in the way it looks, but its beauty is more appreciated because I'm aware that they're not trying to stuff all of these microtransactions down my throat or all of these extra things you can buy. Like, a lot of the armor sets that you can buy throughout the Helix store in Valhalla have way better abilities and passive abilities compared to the base game armor sets. They just do. And a lot of them look more aesthetically pleasing. So a lot more people are going to go, I want the thing that looks cool, that looks shiny, that is better. I want that right out the gate. Boom, someone just bought that. They're level 1. They haven't even started playing yet. Or they're 150 hours into the game. They want to do another playthrough, but they're like, hey, I want to do a playthrough, but I only use my fists. How do I get that? Well, there's an armor set you can purchase that makes it so fist damage is actually viable. So then they have to buy that if they want to do a playthrough like that. It's just a micro transactions in single player video games, because there is no multiplayer to Valhalla. There is none. I don't know why, but they really grind my gears. It fucks up something in my brain. It really does. And I just don't know why. I do know why, but I don't know. I just don't understand why I care so much about that, really. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a open world RPG, or at least it says it is. However, in my 150 hours of playtime, I can safely say is absolutely stunning to look at, but about as fun to explore as the Cyberpunk 2077 open world was to explore before the 2.0 update. When the game first came out, Cyberpunk, it looked stunning, right? When your game worked properly. But it wasn't till the 2.0 update that fixed almost all problems with the game that weren't like personal gripes with the story or something like that, which I don't have any, and I would like to quickly disclaimer that I love Cyberpunk 2077. I plan on doing a video on it. As a matter of fact, that game is very fun. I have like over 420 hours in it. I think it's like 428 hours in that game. So I am by no means a Cyberpunk 2077 hater. I did hate it quite a bit when it released, but I love it now, okay? I love it now because it's fixed. If you can just take your mind back to when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, do you remember exploring Night City and how boring and dog shit that was? It was not very fun. It just wasn't. It wasn't very fun. It wasn't very interactive. It didn't feel like you were in Night City. It felt like Night City was built around you. And, after like 3 or 4 years after Cyberpunk being out, they made it so the open world feels like you are just a part of it. Not everyone is built around you in the open world. And a lot of things work, better in it besides the police system. That is still laughably bad, but, you know, at the same time, Red Dead 2 has a terrible police system, and that game is probably in my top 10. Same with Cyberpunk, probably in my top 15 or something. However, Valhalla, after 4 years, it's been out for 4 years, it didn't do anything to fix the open world. The open world didn't get any better. The DLC's open worlds, yeah, they're a bit better, the areas they add, but I'm talking about the base game. It is not. The base game, which is the part you are spending the most amount of money on, you're spending like $80 or something unless you got it on sale. It is not fun. It is not cool to explore past the first 3 hours of exploring it. It's graphically impressive, but just boring. The open world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is about as beautiful to look at as a freshly blossomed flower, but as stale to be in as a wet piece of cardboard. I'd rather a world maybe not be the most appealing, not even just graphically, because graphics aren't everything. Like art-wise, you know, might not be the most appealing, but it be this interactive, huge labyrinth of content for me to go through, you know? It's one of the main reasons why games like, even though I might not personally like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I know it's heresy, but I can understand why people do, and why it's one of the most replayable video games of all time. Same with Skyrim. It's not that, I love Skyrim. It's not that good of a game. If you look at it, it's not. But you want to know why? It even looked outdated graphically when it came out. You know, there's mods you can put on it to make it look better, but you want to know why people love that open world so much? It's because of how content dense it was. It's because of how many stories, quest lines you could go through whilst just exploring a little bit of Skyrim. Same thing with The Witcher 3. And Valhalla tries to do that. Valhalla does something that a lot of games do, where it tries to be for everyone, and it ends up being for absolutely nobody. Now, I've dragged on long enough about the combat, you know, everything that Ubisoft promised to give us, the open world and stuff like that. I want to quickly talk about the story, and this is just going to be a quick summary of the story. If you want to watch a full-on analysis of Valhalla's story, there's a video I watched not too long ago. You can go watch that. That'll be on screen right now. It's by one sec. If you want more in-depth, you know, analysis of the story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can go watch this video by Baron Essen. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. That'll be on the screen right now, and the link will be in the description as well, so you can go check that out. But now I'll give you a quick little summary of Assassin's Creed Valhalla's story. Very dumbed down, mind you. It's not as dumb as this, but this is basically how I picked up the story. You play as Eivor of the Raven clan, a male or female Viking, as they and their clan make their way through England, making alliances with other Danes and Brits alike. Around the 20-hour mark, the Raven clan's Jarl, Sigurd, who's also your, like, half-brother, gets taken by Folke, a member of the Order, who is one of the actually only interesting characters from the Order in this entire story. I just want to give props. Folke is a pretty good character, so whoever wrote her, props to you. I'd like a little clap for that person. See, there are good things in the story. Eivor then spends the next 20 hours doing random alliances, and then decides to find Sigurd minus his arm. Sigurd gets upset and mad at Eivor for trying to replace Sigurd as Jarl. Eivor and Sigurd then go back to Norway, find a simulation of Valhalla. Eivor then leaves the simulation with Sigurd. When Eivor wakes up, Basim has Sigurd held at a knife point. Eivor and Sigurd beat Basim and lock him in the simulation. Sigurd and Eivor then go back to Ravensthorpe, and Sigurd makes Eivor the new Jarl of the Raven clan. Now, like I said, this was a very dumbed down version of the story. If you want to watch an actual review of Valhalla's story, check out this video by Baron Essen. Do that. My main problem with Valhalla's story, and why I don't personally like it or care for it, is simply because of pacing, which Valhalla does horribly. Like I said before, Valhalla does the pacing of the open world horribly. There's not enough events or encounters or quest lines that happen throughout the open world. There's not enough, and it makes it very bland. The main events of the story of Valhalla that all happen with Sigurd, there is a lot of downtime in between them. You will do 3 to 5 alliances in between each Sigurd mission, and there's 16 total, which you have to do. You have to do all 16 of the alliances to finish the story fully. There's just a lot of downtime between, you know, Sigurd will get captured. 20 hours later, you find Sigurd. And then you also kill Folke. Another like 15 hours after that, then you're going back to Norway with Sigurd. Another like 5 hours, you know, passes by. In the beginning especially, it's like 20 hours in between each mission. It's just, it doesn't work well to have a story dragged out for this long. And the only reason they drag out this story for so long is because player retention, keeping the player there for as long as possible, and milking the player for all of their time and money So that way they can say, hey, Valhalla was a success. Everybody loved it. No one hated a single thing about it. Here's the day to prove it. They don't show player reviews. They show the player in-game time. It's the same thing that like Call of Duty does every year. They're like, this game had the most amount of people still playing it. That's because we did something right. No, it's because you have events that require you to play for 10, 20 hours. So in that player, if he or she does every event throughout that game's life cycle, they're going to have at least 60 hours. So and yeah, your minimum average would be 60 hours of every player. No shit, because they did the events. And 20 plus 20 plus 20, it all adds up. It's not because the player actually liked the game. It's just because hey, that's something to do on a game that I liked, or a game franchise I used to like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed. And so they sit there for that long. Now, where Valhalla absolutely fails in its story and pacing and open world, luckily, the newest addition to the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is Mirage, which if you don't know, you plays Basim, who is like bad guy / good guy in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was meant to be a DLC for Valhalla, but instead they decided to make it a fully priced video game. It's about 15, 18, 20 hours long. Pretty sure it's on sale on different, platforms quite often. You should go play it because it's about 15 to 20 hours, much like the older games. For instance, Assassin's Creed 2, one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, if not probably my favorite, behind Black Flag or possibly in front of it. It's only 15, 20 hours. Mirage is only 15, 20 hours, and it might not be exactly like older games, but it has that social stealth that actually works. It has assassin gameplay. You are playing as an assassin in the Assassin's Creed game. And it's just got, pretty decently wrote characters. Basim is probably, the best wrote character in the whole thing. And if he wasn't in it, Mirage would probably be like a low 5. But instead, since he's in it, it's like a high 6 to a low 7. Don't play Valhalla. You don't need to understand Mirage. Instead of purchasing Valhalla, which is usually not on sale, usually full price, the DLCs, which make the game better, ridiculously priced. Instead of that, go and play Mirage. And guess what? In Mirage, there's more, I'd say there's probably about the same amount of unlockable outfits to purchasable outfits. And their stats, I'm pretty sure from my experience, that the unlockable in-game outfits have better stats than the whatever they have in the Helix shop. So just go play Mirage. Don't play this, just go play Mirage. Alright, click off the video right now, buy Mirage, go play Mirage. If you want to play a older type of Assassin's Creed game with newer Assassin's Creed mechanics that actually work well. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was a game that I was truly hyped for as a fan of not just Assassin's Creed, but also different types of Viking media, okay? I mentioned Vinland Saga earlier. That's definitely like top 5, top 3 anime/manga. That is beautiful. Vinland Saga is beautiful. Please go read or watch Vinland Saga. Just do it. I know it's an anime or a manga, and some people might not like that, but it's not weird, I swear. Unfortunately, though, Assassin's Creed Valhalla didn't even come close to my expectations as an Assassin's Creed game, and it also didn't come close to my expectations as a Viking game, okay? Because the biggest Viking part of it, raids, which you have to do to be able to upgrade Ravensthorpe, which is integral to some parts of the story. It is not fun. The raids are annoying. The first few times they're fun. Every time after that, you have to awkwardly angle your longship directly towards shore, which then gets your crew to yell, "What are you doing? You lost your mind, you idiot?" Because you crash into shore. Press triangle or whatever key it is on mouse and keyboard, or Y on Xbox. Go and do a raid, and then you get your supplies out of it. You don't even have to kill everybody on the raid. When I was doing the raids later in the game, I just ran up to the crate, went, "Hey, help me open this," because you need your crew to help you open it. "Hey, help me open this." We'd get everything out of the boxes, and I would fast travel out of there because it's just so bad. It is. It's just so bad. It just is. And as an Assassin's Creed game, I know you don't play as an assassin in this game, but you're given the hidden blade. You have the cloak. There is an option in the settings now to wear the cloak even in combat. Always wear the cloak up or the hood up. And Ubisoft said, "Hey, we're going back to the roots. It's gonna be actually, it's gonna be like the old Assassin's Creed games. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so cool." And instead, Assassin's Creed Valhalla failed to meet the expectations of the newer Assassin's Creed fans that like the RPG styles. I don't mind the RPG styles, but it also didn't meet the expectations or woo any of the people like me that are more so fans of the older Assassin's Creed games. So like I said before, Assassin's Creed Valhalla tries to meet the expectations of everyone, and it doesn't meet the expectations of anyone, because casual players that might just pick it up because, hey, there's Vikings in it, you have to go through this. You have to be oh, you have to be level like 250 to go to this area, or 240 to go to this area, or some areas it's like 380. So then they get gate kept out of all these areas because they don't know the proper ways to level up quickly. And then the more hardcore players, we go through the game. I didn't even have to be close to the level, and I played through this game on hard difficulty. I didn't even have to be close to the level. Matter of fact, you probably noticed throughout some of the gameplay I've been throwing up, I was fighting a boss. It's like, oh, you need to be level 380. I beat her at level like 220, level 220, and I wasn't even using like a top tier best weapon. I don't think it just fails. It falls flat. Now, I'm not gonna go as far as to say I didn't enjoy Valhalla at all, because that wouldn't be true. I did enjoy this game, just not when I tried to play it as an Assassin's Creed game. Only when I played it as a average, not very good RPG Viking game, which truly upsets me to put that title, but that's the only time I enjoyed it. Right? That is the only time I genuinely enjoyed this game a lot. And it truly upsets me as well, because I know for a fact that Ubisoft can do better, but there's no need for them to, because what competition do they have for assassin type games, especially set in the Viking age? They have no competition. It's the same thing with Call of Duty every year. They have no competition. Anytime competition has came in, it gets shut down. X-Defined, and they're just the #1 shooter, whether it be through Warzone or Black Ops 6 multiplayer or zombies or their campaign. They're just always on top. Same thing with Ubisoft. For assassin type games, they're always on top because there isn't really any. We haven't really had any since like Ghost of Tsushima is the last time we had like this assassin type game that, you know, was really popular with mainstream people. Like in the mainstream, I hate to use that word, but in the mainstream. And when that game came out, Assassin's Creed, you know, I forget which one came out at the time, but that game I definitely enjoyed more than whatever Assassin's Creed was out at the time. Which is why I'm excited that this upcoming year, 2025, we're going to have Ghost of Yotai, which I don't care about anyone who has quarrels with the protagonist not being Jin or the protagonist being a woman, because God forsake you plays something other than a man, right? That'd be terrible. But that's why I'm excited that Ghost of Yotai is coming out, and it looks like we're also going to be getting Assassin's Creed, I even forgot the name, Shadows. There we go, around the same time. I can tell you for a fact, if someone wants to play, unless Ghost of Yotai somehow is like extremely fucked up, which I highly doubt it, because Ghost of Tsushima had problems. Ghost of Tsushima's expansion, the island of Iki, or Iki Island, fixed a lot of those. So I highly doubt that Ghost of Yotai is gonna fuck up unless Sucker Punch like goes in a completely different direction. There's not gonna be any contest. And also in this upcoming year, we're gonna be having GTA 6 as well, which is gonna absolutely topple over a majority of other like big open world games, which seems to be what Ubisoft likes making, is these big open world games. So they have a lot of competition this year, which is why they delayed it. I can almost guarantee it's why they delayed it, because they are trying to rush now and fix some of the shit, which isn't going to happen. They only delayed it for 3 months, but it's not going to happen. But they're trying to fix all this shit that they fucked up, and the slop that they were producing before, because they have to produce something better now. Now, before this video ends, I want to say that I'm trying my best to not sound like I'm completely bashing Valhalla, because I obviously had some fun. I did sink 150 hours in throughout the course of like 2.5 months. So I obviously did enjoy it a decent amount. Not gonna say I completely hated it. It's a beautiful game. The soundtrack needs its roses. It's been playing throughout this video in like certain little cinematic areas and stuff like that. It's good. The soundtrack is good. I like the soundtrack. I really think this game could have just been better though. That's the only thing. It really could have. And that's the main reason as to why I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla is one of the worst games in the franchise.
Hearken well in Hall of Kings. On ocean steed my words gain wings. Odin's mead I forth will bring. For noble deeds thine honour sing. The brave man slain Valkyria waits. Reward for strain to Valhalla takes. Then horns resound the mighty hall. For those who fight, for those who fall. For those who fight, for those who fall. Warlord weaves his web of fear. Each man gets his fated share. A blood-red surge, the warrior shield. Ravens scan the battlefield.
I would like to quickly recommend yet again a book or show, depending on what it is you prefer. This book/show I'm talking about is Vinland Saga, like I said before, which I truly think almost everyone should see, whether that be through the anime on Netflix/Crunchyroll or by reading the manga. I think you should read the manga and watch the anime, but that's because I'm a bit of a fucking nerd. But I truly think almost everyone should see it. I mean, it truly changed my perspective on many things, and it's just a fun read/watch in general. Also, if you want to support these longer form videos more than you already are by watching it, you don't have to. Watching this video is support enough. Then you can check out my Patreon, but that's really not necessary at all. With all of that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope all of you have a great day/night. Till next time, goodbye.